the conservative voters of Oklahoma have voted on a ballot initiative and they've made themselves clear. They are in favor of government-funded healthcare. So this ballot measure would allow for Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act. The money to expand Medicaid would overwhelmingly come from the federal government. This was a huge part of Obamacare. And so the Hill reports that the ballot measure did pass only a few thousand votes, prevailing by 50.5% to 49.5% who opposed it. But look, here's the good news, it passed. And even when you're polling Republicans on an issue like Medicare for All, there have been polls indicating that Republicans favor it by a slim margin. So the expansion would allow upward of $1 billion in federal funds to flow into Oklahoma, while the state would pick up only a small percentage of the cost. Now, John, keep in mind, and we've talked about this in the past, there have been so many red states who were bitter at Obama and so defiant that they decided to do their own constituents wrong and refuse to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. They refused to take federal money to help their own constituents out if they were unable to afford private health insurance. And luckily, in this case, it turned into a ballot initiative in Oklahoma, and the people of Oklahoma have spoken. Luckily, they're going in the right direction.
I'm gonna only partly disagree with you when you say that these red states did their constituents wrong. This aid would go to poor people, and they don't consider those their constituents. So slight disagreement, but yeah, it's insane and great that it's been solved, but think about how much good could have been done if we hadn't had this massive gap of so many years before the voters stepped in and did it. When I saw this, and it was so close, but when I saw this end, I thought, but we really do need these primaries right now, not just for inspiration when it comes to some of the candidates who've actually won, but also a reminder that a lot of us were left after Bernie lost thinking, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, he's out of it, he's not gonna be running again. And we know on some level that, look, there's other races, you can certainly do down ballot stuff, try to take over state governments and everything. But these ballot measures, this isn't the first one that has like fundamentally changed things by stepping around our elected representatives. And it's a reminder that you can get involved in these sort of efforts in whether it's healthcare, tax stuff, social issues, all of that, marijuana legalization, talk about trees like you were before. Like, that is one thing that you can turn your attention to if you're sort of put off by presidential politics.
We're dealing with this pandemic right now where tens of millions of Americans have lost their jobs and they've lost their healthcare coverage along with it. And if ever there was a moment to make the case that we need to just completely reform how healthcare is done in this country, it's now. And it's amazing to me that it's still this ridiculous uphill battle as hundreds of thousands of Americans are contracting the virus and over 100,000 Americans have already died from the virus. I mean, we're at like nearly 130,000 Americans who have died from coronavirus. And by the way, without the pandemic, we needed to really reform healthcare in America, right? But this has just emphasized it and amplified the problem that we've been dealing with. And by the way, just to give you a sense of how many red states have rejected Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act, this ballot initiative, which has been favored by the majority of Oklahoma voters, makes Oklahoma the 5th state controlled by Republicans to approve Medicaid expansion through a ballot measure, joining the ranks of only Idaho, Maine, Nebraska, and Utah. But all those other red states, again, giving their people a giant middle finger and telling them, no, we're not gonna take this money that has been specifically allocated for our state so we can keep you healthy and safe.
When you sign up for a spend and save account at aspiration.com/TYT, we will plant 10 trees. Let's save the planet together.